And welcome. Chelsea Collie here. We have a wonderful guest today. Welcome, Lowell Johnson.
Chelsea, thank you for inviting me. I thought we were already going. So, man, I used all my good stuff already.
I know. Like, you got to get live. This is good.
Well, I will abbreviate. Chelsea had asked me to introduce myself, and I began to reflect on the professional side of my life and how I'd been a hotel exec for a long time, was used to standing up and talking to people, and got comfortable with it. I had no idea where that was going to lead me down the road, when apparently the universe had other ideas for me other than to run non-gaming facilities and hotels and casinos and resorts. And yeah, somewhere along that journey, I had a TIA really. And I say that because when I learned it's like a mini stroke, had some blockage in my carotid artery, and it caused some health effects that I'd never suffered. I'd always been relatively healthy. I had a bad knee, but that just comes with being an athlete. But other than that, really, I had pretty good health all my life. I didn't break any bones. I played hockey, so I had plenty of stitches, and those types of things happen. But when I look back, something else was kind of taking care of my form. When the TIA came along, there was a crossroads going on. There was a lot of things that were dismantling in the rest of my life then. I was at the tail end of my marriage, and it wasn't a bad thing. It was just our interests started to go in different directions. But surprisingly enough, it was her who, pointed me toward like The Secret, and, just started to trigger that kind of curiosity. And all I needed was a trigger to get me started. And the Capricorn in me was going to go due diligence the hell out of whatever this rabbit hole was, only to learn that once you dive down one, it reveals three more. And so if you really want to understand the entirety of the things that it took time over to comprehend, it just takes time to assimilate it. During that process where it was going to take some time, the surgeon who performed it had suggested a couple of different methods of therapy, and one was
process of surgery, or
it had to be surgically corrected.
Okay.
And so actually it was this past weekend, 5 years ago, that procedure took place. Yeah, I was in and out of the hospital in 3 days, sooner than I should have, but look, not interested in laying around the hospital. I can do that at home. Just send me on my way. And so when they thought I was capable of taking care of myself, they let me go. And then the doctor had just pointed out, you're going to be recovering for about 30 days. So you might want to think about some things, therapeutically that would work. And among the things he listed off, meditation was one of those things he had suggested. Well, I had been interested in meditation prior to that. If you just listen to anything, you heard what the benefits of when you can find this quiet, peaceful place that you can connect to higher, greater things, including spirit. So I thought, what a wonderful time. I've got plenty of time on my hands now, laying on the couch here for me to research it. So for the better part of a month, I went through the internet and did everything I could to find out what the hell a mantra was and where I could get one. Well, you don't just dial it up on eBay or Amazon. They don't come that way. And they don't come that way by any other way other than for some reason, I had pulled out The Secret for a third time and watched it. And in there's certainly references made to TM, to Transcendental Meditation. That's when the light went on. Oh, wow. Well, if it's as easy and as simple as they say it is, it's at least worth a try. Now, TM instructors are all patterned the same way. When Maharishi brought that to the world, he had learned it from his mentor. And there was a way that everyone was going to be trained. It was uniform. And in the end, to be honest, it was simple and it was easy and it was effective. It, over a 4 consecutive day training period, an hour a day. I was in a room with a small group of, I think there were 4 or 5 of us total. And by the second day, I could feel the difference. By the third day, I understood it. And by the fourth day, I thought I could see benefits that I was getting from it already. Never mind what I was going to get over the next 3 months when I was doing it religiously. I thought that, man, if it makes me feel this good, others need to know about this. I thought my pattern was going to be a TM instructor. There was a process I had already gone through once I took the training. And by the way, here's synchronicities about it. When I finally found a trainer, and they're not in every corner, you have to find a trainer that's been certified to the program in order for them to train you properly. This woman ended up living about a mile away from my home.
Wow.
Yeah, those were meant to be things. From that point on, my health improved without really being mindful of it. I started to lose weight because I was craving different things. I just didn't crave heavy things anymore. I didn't intend and didn't join a health club. It wasn't a regimen like that. I thought it'd be more physical, and I wasn't mindful of what I ate, but I had always been attracted to water. Regretfully, I lived in wine country for a long time. When I got there in 2007 late, I was a GM of a hotel in Santa Rosa, and it was wonderful. I had no idea I was going to land in the middle of 492 wineries within the county, and got to know most of them pretty well. So I enjoy wine and food in the way that it was presented there. It was just incredibly organic because I was fortunate enough to have a chef who was creative and resourceful enough that everything that we produced and prepared, we could get within a 50-mile radius. Now, there were some wines that we got outside there, but we could even get all those in the county. It was amazing. Everything, dairy, proteins, you name it. It was an incredible place to live. And until you were actually there and appreciated what you had that grew in your backyard, wow, I've never been in a place like this. So once I started to do some consulting toward the end of my career. I was done working for companies that just want to move you to the next thing. And when I'd gotten to Santa Rosa, man, it was the nicest climate in the country I had lived in, and I'd lived in 9 states. So I thought, I'll just continue to live here and I can consult from here. And that's what I ended up doing. So since 2011, I had just consulted myself out, did a lot of work for the same friends of mine that I'd worked with in the past. And when they needed someone to just plug in anywhere, because there isn't a hotel job I didn't have, it was easy for me. I enjoy doing renovations and that type of thing. So there were a couple of projects, the casinos especially, where they were about to move like operations off a riverboat and on land. And we want to renovate a 300-room hotel. Great. Love to do that. Totally my game. So that's how I ended up in Baton Rouge on 2 different occasions as it was transitioning through different owners. And that's when yeah. Well, LeBerge was
it was LeBerge.
No, I went there to actually convert the Bell, which had been there forever and was about ready to move off the riverboat and make if you know the complex there, it's got 15 acres. So it was made to be on land. And I was going to do the non-gaming part of the operation. It was going to be a blast. So I got to lay out the new restaurants and the retail and the new spa and how the hotel rooms were going to be. But then lots of things changed. El Dorado had acquired it over time. And then El Dorado was about to become Caesars. Yeah, well, it really didn't fit in the Caesars platform. And so
was that also during in Baton Rouge? Is that in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow, when I got close to the end of that assignment, there was just something else. I told you all that because something was nagging at me in the meantime. I had already gone through this transition in late 2015. And so now we're 2018, 2019. By that time, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else. I love my work, but even during the transition, and it was strange when I went to the GM and I said, you don't really need me right now, because I had a pretty good job making 6 figures, bonus, had a pretty good, the perks to be in my position was pretty good. But honestly, there was something else I was supposed to do. Everything had been put on hold during the transition between one company and another. So oftentimes there wasn't all the work that we'd done, it was just on hold. Well, I thought that I was a lot of payroll that you didn't need to deal with. And as much as it was going to not be painful, but the team I had pulled together and worked with were wonderful. These people become family. So it's just the nature of my business had been moving from different places around the country. And you just find new installations of your family that are there. And, us hoteliers, we don't stay in one place very long. That just spawns all over the country. So you've got family and friends everywhere you go. If you're in hospitality, you know that as well as me. And so when I got to the end of the year, I gave Jim, the GM, my resignation, gave him 6 weeks. And I was going to be done like the first week in February. Now I had planned to relocate to Nevada and Las Vegas. I scoped out a house that was there. My intention was to move there, and then I was going to consult from there. And then I was close enough to pursue some other, metaphysical things that I had lots of curiosities about. On the way to Nevada after I'd left, I thought there was a 10-day wedge of time before I was supposed to close at the end of February, and time for me to go back and visit with my son in California, in Santa Rosa, for about 10 days before I had to go to Nevada and close. All the drive there I took my time, so it took about 4 days. But on the 3rd day, guides just kept saying, don't close on the house. Don't close on the house. So I was within the last 30-day window. And although I didn't have a lot of escrow, I knew it was at risk. But I finally made the decision on the way to Alex's house the day before I got there, and just called my broker and let her know the news that I was going to sacrifice it. And we would go on. And when I came back, we'll regroup and we'll find something else. There's just something that my guides are telling me, don't do it. Well, the second day I got to Alex's was when COVID hit. And so now we're all locked down indefinitely. It's the first stages of it. So we have no idea what's happening. Now, my son wasn't really situated to host his father again because he's got roommates already, but now we're just stuck. So until we get to the end of June and the situation begins to relax so that people are allowed now to go outside, not as restrictive, all I wanted to do was get back out into nature, damn it. And I wanted to go to, hop in the car alone, go find the national parks in the Southwest. That's all I need to do, just get there. I've got no plans. Nothing's going on with COVID right now anyway. So what a great place to go. I'd been there before, and here was an opportunity for me to return. Well, while I was planning my itinerary, I had seen that a couple of the national parks might not even be open due to COVID. So they just closed them so I don't have to deal with them. And the very next thought in my head was Mount Shasta. Don't ask me why. To this day, I don't know why it was placed there, but there are no coincidences. And as we know now, based on all of the magic that I've seen there, now I know I was sent there, that there was a part of my journey that was waiting for me that I needed to touch up there. And so the next thing I knew, I was heading to Shasta for a week. When I left my sons, we had agreed that I was going to go there for about a week and see what I could feel. And then maybe he and I would meet up either in Tahoe or in Reno. And just we had plenty of time to do something. Let's just get out and enjoy nature while we can. Well, toward the end of the first week, I was hiking in different places every day and loved it. There was some kind of energy that I couldn't put my finger on at the time, but I was hiking like a young man every day. I should have been tired in between because I was 66 while I was doing these hikes every day, and I wasn't fatigued the next day. I was up at 7 and ready to go all over again. And so when I touched base with him, I said, I think I'm going to stay for another week. It's terrific. And there are things that I want to see that I haven't seen here yet. Well, the 2 weeks turned into, in the end, 5.
Wow.
At the end of the 4th week was when I was more intentional about what I wanted to really get out of my visit there. It certainly is well known to people that know about Saint Germain, and that's no legend. Some being came out of the forest in Mount Shasta and gave so much information to Guy Ballard that I don't know how many books a guy ended up writing, 12 or 13, and started what he left behind was the Saint Germain Foundation. And it was really, when you examine what they were trying to communicate, was to try and get humanity to understand the idea of dimensionality and where you have access to higher versions of yourself. And it started to catch on. And then, like anything else, people from the outside didn't get it. And now it's a cult. And then when Guy passed, it just kind of seemed like, all the air was let out of the balloon. The core of it is still there, but it's still, you can't deny that this individual came out and presented humanity with information that was relevant to it and was unmistakable. So we know that that kind of thing happened. While I'm wandering around in the forest off trail because I want to go out where I might run into somebody where I've never been, I was looking for a connection with an ascended master. That was what my intent was. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was going to have the first multi-dimensional experience, now that I understand what it is in retrospect, and that on one day I was going to be hiking and leaning up against what I thought was a part of the mountain, and then all of a sudden felt a breeze from behind me and the mountain opened up. That's a oversimplified way of saying that miracle happened right there. And it took a while for me to assimilate it all, months before I really could wrap my head around what happened and then why. And then as things progressed, this wasn't going to be, the universe wasn't going to show me one surprise and have that as my story. I was going to go out and tell others about extraordinary experiences people have. I wasn't going to have one chapter in my book. They had other plans for me in the long run. And as I look back on it now and I understand more about the design of our soul contracts and choices we make, and kind of looked at the linear timeline of things and where I was born and what had happened in the metaphysical scheme of things, I understand much more about humanity and our relationship with the earth and where she's going cosmically, and assistance that's coming our way. In the meantime, most of us are oblivious to any of this that's going on because it wasn't ever talked about in school. And people that have had extraordinary experiences, because whatever entities wanted to tamp that down, or that wasn't, they weren't interested in making it more publicly known. Those days are over. Whatever trigger has come along now for those of us that I believe that I chose this incarnation, that I knew that within my lifetime that this shift in Earth's consciousness was going to take place. and that it was going to affect every sentient being on the earth the same way. I knew that within me. Now, I didn't understand the mechanics of it, and I didn't understand what that really meant and how it was going to play out and what that meant for humans. But the information was sent to me. And so now I do more of these just to prepare people for what's coming. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. All I'm going to do is share what has happened with me and tell you with great certainty that what's inside of me and what I have access to is no different than anyone else once you're aware of it and you pay attention to it. And right now, whatever guides at a higher level are here supporting us, whether we pay attention to them or not, are trying as quickly as they can for the shift that's imminent, for us to just be aware of getting ourselves in alignment and understanding where we find our vibration is, because her vibration is about to rise. And anything that is going to exist in that realm has to match the vibration. The effort now is to understand that there is light that's been feeding Earth that is assisting her in her ascension. This elevated proton energy that's coming our way from the central sun through our sun and affecting everything in our solar system and beyond. There is additional light that's coming our way. So those of us that are light workers, we're very sensitive to that. But there's a new dynamic that we've learned that's taking place. There's a whole different spectrum of light that's coming in Earth's direction. So that higher level of photon energy that's coming has higher capacity light. We live on what's understood to be half Orionic light. Human beings have lived with that ever since ever. Right now, however, with Earth's consciousness rising and her vibration rising, something has to be changed within this physical form we have to accept higher light and higher frequencies, greater light, higher frequencies, because that's what's coming at us now. If we want to understand more about humanity and what's happened to us along the way, and admittedly, I've not spent a lot of time on the dark side of things, but we can't ignore that it's probably true that our DNA along the way was manipulated for reasons that I understand and certainly didn't benefit humanity for, but we are about to get to a place where there is processes coming for us that is going to help us remove whatever manipulated DNA may still exist and restore it to our original human design. So when we get to the place where Earth's consciousness is rising and we can vibrate with it, humanity is no longer locked down by the way that we were before. No. We finally have a real shot at seeing what humanity can really do. Now, when we have access to higher technologies that we've certainly had before, but like the Lemurians that I've come in contact with, they have wonderful technologies they want to share with us. And for all the reasons why they want to do with a human, what they've grown past is their emotion. They certainly understand and see duality around them because they witness what's going on with us, but they've risen above it. They're all, they know they're part of one. And that love, unity, and compassion is really the foundation of everything. So our creativity, as you know, comes from our emotion. And every human being wants to take something and make it better. So imagine taking the technologies that they have and cutting humanity loose with DNA that's no longer manipulated, and all of our Akash is back at our command. Wow. Now watch what New Earth is going to be like. Every place in the galaxy is watching this experiment. Earth had been an experiment from the very beginning. They wanted to see how this would work as a life-sustaining planet. It didn't start out to be that, but when there were other disruptions in our own solar system, where the planet Marduk, which I guess used to be between Mars and Jupiter, was damaged and could no longer be used for that purpose. That's when they looked at Earth and went, let's see. That was when, whatever this grid, the planet and the grid was originally, was thought to be, let's see what happens when this is built out. So if you're open-minded enough to believe that that's when the Pleiadians first came. There were scientists that came from the Pleiadians because they're the master botanists in the galaxy. They were going to establish the mantle around it. And when they were finished with the build out, they just looked back at it with amazement. Oh my God, look what we just built. And that's when they asked for permission from the Galactic Federation to colonize here. Then it started after that. Then the Lyrans followed behind because, they're master architects and builders. And those beings were, 20 plus feet tall. The Colossus things that were built back then, they were responsible for a lot of that. But you have to remember that those beings that came here already had all those higher dimensional abilities. And there's a lot to be said when you can, transmute matter into any form you want, in and out of form, because that's what we get to do in the next dimension. We don't manifest anything immediately. There's always a delay, and there are lots of other things that the universe has to line up for us to manifest things we want. That doesn't preclude that you still control the process. Your thoughts and what you put out to the universe is what she sends back in abundance. And if you can hold your frequency and your intent, I am living proof that over the last 4 years, the things that I've asked for and intended for have manifested in my life. It's crazy. Now, I didn't know whether I attributed that to some higher access than I had before, or whether it was just the nature of things. And that when you finally just focused on it, all that awareness came to you anyway.
That's a great point right there. Because I think the thing about your story, Lowell, is just, obviously unique because of your background and because you're such a, you were contracting in the hotel business and going around to these different properties, and you're a very logical cat.
Yeah, but
yeah.
You're right. That's the Capricorn side of me. So, I used to spend time going back and listening to these things and listening like an objective observer when I'm listening to myself. And if I'm listening to this guy, does he sound authentic? And do I believe what he's saying? And every time I do that, I concluded that I did. And it wasn't that, this is just authentically who I am. I'm a really grounded Capricorn. I'm pretty certain that had a lot to do with the decision-making on what I was going to be given, what I was going to be downloaded, because there's still a lot of chaos going on around me. And somehow I seem to be able to hold steady and still communicate what's coming out without falling victim to all the rest of the stuff that's going on around us.
But you're not like a self-proclaimed guru. You're not like presenting yourself as a spiritual leader. You're very logical in the way that you describe everything, which I think lends credibility to your story. And I think if anybody wants to learn more about his experience, Lowell's done so many interviews walking through his experience with Telos, and we probably don't have time to walk through that today, but one of my favorite, your recent interview with Sherry Divband was really good. Well, both of them, because you did two. But the initial ones that you did with Danny Henderson, episode 1 and episode 2, and I think that was maybe over a year ago now, or maybe 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a year ago. I think those were actually in November last year. Yeah, those
I watched
fire.
those. That's how I spent my New Year's Eve. I watched those, and my mind was blown. So you totally lit up my whole year just by watching that on New Year's Eve. So you talk about this light, and Earth is changing, and things and opportunities are presenting themselves to us so that we can bring in that light. Is there any advice that you would want to give the audience of how to kind of prepare ourselves to receive that light?
That's a real focus right now. It's not whether we're asking for the light's coming, whether we're paying attention or not. And it is penetrating every sentient life form on the planet, including the planet herself, at a cellular level. At some point in the next realm, we no longer carry carbon bodies. We're not this that wears out after 100 years, and that needs to be nourished and fed and cared for. It just wasn't meant to wear out. Where we're going are bodies that are crystalline. That form and the Lemurians I saw, that's why they look so flawless. I don't know if they're hundreds of years old in our time or thousands of years old, but when you're in light form and crystal like that, in the next two dimensions where we still enjoy physicality, we will, but not as carbon form human beings, will be humans that are in crystalline form. And actually, you get to shape really what your avatar is like. You can move in and out of form, but it's still physical. Once we reach the 6th dimensional level, you're still a light being indeed, but you no longer maintain form. The light beings I had interactions with, when we photograph them, you see their light form, but they're not in human, touch form. They're not crystalline form. That's kind of the progression of things. So we've had interaction with physical interactions with 6th dimensional beings. That was what had happened to me last year. So those are the references I make to when I went to Telos the year before. Oh my God, all of a sudden I meet a woman I had never met before. She turns out she's a hybrid, and she's here pretty much on assignment. That somehow I'm going to go through a couple of ceremonies and connect with 6th dimensional light beings and establish that connection so that I can continue that later. Now, I didn't understand what the nature of any of that was when it happened last year either.
Was that Kumu you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And Kumu, the reason I bring her up, especially now, is it was she that started to explain what the light was that was coming in our direction. I met her, I think like on the 6th of August last year. And on the 8th, she sent me a voicemail that was, I think, 8 minutes long, that explained what this full spectrum light that was coming at us and what is taking place now, so that we are better, first of all, aware of what's coming our way and what power this new light has to transmute negative energy into light. That is why it's important. Never mind that it's nourishing our physical beings at a whole different level and preparing for the day that the vibrational shift takes place. Your body cellularly has already got everything it needs to move from that carbon form, and your soul now survives, it rides, however you want to characterize it, in crystalline form, in new earth, and whatever that design had in your mind, because as a co-creator who vibrated the same with everybody else, you already have in your head what that looks like.
With those crystalline light forms, are you actually able to touch them?
I felt them and I heard them. And when I say I felt them, you just felt energy. And on this particular ceremony, when I heard them, and I didn't understand what I was hearing at first, I thought I heard something like it made the sound of like the biggest hummingbird you would have ever heard, and that kind of flapping, and at that speed, kind of, but it had like vibration to it. It started over here as I was laying on the ground, and then it went away. It was enough that I noticed it, because I thought, well, maybe a hummingbird actually did fly in here and hovered right there. But if it was a hummingbird, it would have moved because they don't really hover in one spot. The animal would have moved. So when it stopped, it got enough of my attention. And then, I was kind of going back to where I was. And then it started over here. Same sound. And that's when I recognized this thing isn't moving. It's stationary. And then it stopped again. And then one last time, it started right behind my head. And while I was listening to it this time, now I felt light energy just passing from my crown and all the way through the rest of me. Holy cow, was that energetic. It's 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon in California. Holy cow. I wondered what kind of light show this was producing for everybody else. Because when I saw the pictures of what had happened after the fact, I went, oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, and that's so cool for the audience that isn't familiar. You've shared the pictures on Facebook.
They're on my website. I put them there for people. I didn't make it easy. I passworded it. Not that I don't want people to find it. I do want you to find it, but I want the right people to find it, so that it wasn't going to be put up there to engage those that want to challenge the pictures. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But those that resonate with it and triggered them, that's what I'm here to help you understand. What I learned this year when I went back to Shasta and the circle was made complete is that experience I had the previous August when I was with light beings, put yourself in the picture, because all of you that are ready are next. You're about to be called and you're about to be activated in the same way. That light that's coming our way that we just need to adjust ourselves for. We're getting whatever light codes we're supposed to be downloaded to us so that we can help others understand what it is and that they can take in this additional light and as a light worker, understand how you're going to anchor that in other places. I clearly was not supposed to be the only one. I was supposed to be the first one. And then when that happens, not everyone's coming to Lowell. No, I get to help you. You get to help yourself. And then you are also going to help others get it. There's no secret behind any of this. It's meant for all of us, not just me. I just happen to be fortunate. And right now it's a little odd because without a lot of other people in the mainstream understanding what the hell I talk about, I don't say much outside circles of my tribe. Those of you that have found me that resonate in the same way, we're all doing that for a purpose. Now we feel comfortable about sharing these extraordinary experiences, and no two are alike. That's the very first thing that we all embrace, and it didn't matter. I wasn't supposed to learn what Chelsea learns. She may have a really cool gift, but that wasn't meant for her necessarily to teach it to others. There will be aspects of her that she will, but when it comes for her, or for her to do what she's supposed to do on behalf of her collective, she just steps in and does it because it's second nature to her. The rest of us all marvel at what she can do because we can't. So we don't need to learn what Chelsea does. We got Chelsea. That's when she steps up. Each one of us carries some kind of unique gift in that same way. And if we lived in a world where we explored letting people find out what that little gift inside of them was, instead of thinking that you all need to understand English, science, math, name it, we would all live in a very different place. And what I know I can do and the gifts I've got now at my level are extraordinary. Now put me in a room with somebody else that has similar gifts and watch what we do together. And then multiply that by the number of gifted people in a room together. That's what we should be focusing on, because that next civilization that I visited, that's exactly how they think.
Interesting. I was thinking about pulling up that clip and sharing that clip that I shared with you. Would that be okay?
Oh, yes, please.
We could talk about, because you are talking about how people can have their own experiences with inner earth or enlightenment or whatever. So if it's okay, I'm going to share that little quick 1-minute video.
Sure.
And then we can
would that be okay? Oh yeah.
Oops. We can talk about the different entrances to inner earth and how potentially, people can have their own experiences. So you see my screen right now, right?
I do.
Okay. So we're just gonna
Our
watch
world
this
of polarity.
video.
Beneath the earth, but it's in a different dimension. Now, if you remember from some of the journal entries from Agartha that people spoke about, it was like going through
I should preface this. This is Bryce Watson reading from the Emerald Tablets from the commentary Michael Doriel from the Emerald Tablets.
portal. So even a lot of people say to go into Agartha, which is the land beneath our earth, they have to go through a portal. So not everyone can just stumble into Agartha. You have to be at a certain vibration. So even though the halls of Amente are kept in this like area that's not necessarily accessible, it is still connected to our world of polarity. Their approximate location in relationship to the earth is beneath Atlantis, but no one has to move out of the space fold to enter. There are various places where this can be accomplished. Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma, Mount Shasta, California, McTollin, South America, Shambhala, Tibet, Great Pyramids, Egypt, Black Forest, Germany, Pyrenees, India, Atlas Mountains, Africa. So again, all of these locations are the exact same locations to the entrance of Agartha.
Okay, so that was super cool for me just because I actually have been so drawn to that Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma. And I've been there like a number of times. I've been able to stop by and I wanted to stay for longer, but I couldn't. But I've been so drawn there. I've been trying to tell my husband we need to get a cabin because they have cabins there. And just go stay in Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that I'm drawn to there because it's kind of like a magical place. But do you agree with that those places that she mentioned from the commentary on the Emerald Tablets are actual entrances to inner earth?
Yeah, when I realized what she was reading, it thrilled me. About 18 months ago, maybe longer than that, I was on a mission to understand the Emerald Tablets. And it took me 5 passes before I got it. But I got that with some download help. And I also got it because I channeled the writer. And I don't talk about that very much. But part of what meeting up with Kumu was to activate that ability for higher aspects other than just me to express themselves from me. I didn't really know what that meant until I started to say profound things that I don't understand where I got it from. I just allow it to come through. But as part of that, the Emerald Tablets and it was like the light came on. I understand what it means. And it's no secret. I'll tell you what it means. Thoth was trying to leave messages behind, just like Guy Ballard did in Saint Germain. They're trying to help us understand dimensionality. There are 9 dimensions represented on our planet, on the orb. And each one of them is a realm unto itself. Inner Earth was designed as a 7th dimensional realm, but it houses 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional things. So where Telos was one of those cities inside of it, I guess if you consider all of it, trying to remember the name, Agartha is one of those places. And the areas that you were mentioning, all are well-known portals for it, assuming that, like I said before, your vibration matches that of what's around you. You can vibrate at the same level as things in the 4th dimension. And when you do, those things are revealed to you. When I'm in the forest and I see colors and sounds that are higher than I used to, and my senses become much more acute than they used to be, well, those were some gifts that I got along the way, but they're all developable. And it's not that you're learning anything new. We're just recovering things that we had the ability to do before. And so when that finally comes into your wherewithal, you begin to wonder, well, why is it coming at such an accelerated rate? Well, now we tie this whole story together. Earth's consciousness is rising quickly. And if I told you the amount of time that we had, we're measuring it in years, boys and girls, and I'm not talking about decades any longer. Sense what's been going on around you. Look at the solar influence we've been getting. It's just been crazy. It's elevated higher than is normal. And it's what we know is going to precede whatever shift is about to take place here.
And maybe that's why the Emerald tablets are out now, right? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly right.
Until recently that they've been even available to us.
One of the weekend I met Kumu when we were in Shasta, after I first met her, a couple weeks later, she took me to a channeling where I finally got my connection to Egypt. Thought I'd had one. That answered my questions, because while I was in that session and in a meditative state, I saw myself lifting off the top of the Great Pyramid and exposing the halls of Amenti for all of humanity, including those tablets that had been previously forbidden.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not going to be a secret anymore. It was time for these things to be revealed, just like it was time for me to have the things that cross my path. And the same things for you, Chelsea, that are crossing your path and making you curious and intriguing you in ways. All of that is not a coincidence. Many things from our higher perspective are trying to get our attention right now to help remind us to prepare for what's about to come. And it's not when we get to the end that you still don't have an opportunity. I had a different idea from this Ascension handbook that guides put in my hands 2 years ago. It was awesome. It helped me really understand the mechanics of even the physical parts that are going to happen, but I still really in my head didn't have a clear idea of what was really going to happen. Well, 6 weeks ago, again, it can't be any coincidence, I was pointed toward another 41-page PDF document called the Golden Taya. And what the Golden Taya is, and I'll make sure I get it to you after this, it was a channeling done in 1995 where Thoth had channeled what was actually going to happen when the Ascension came around. And if you want to believe what it said in the first couple paragraphs, that this time frame, and again, it's a loose time frame, remember, it was documented in 95, was sometime between 2015 and 2025. Now, I want you to feel what the energy's been like around us the last year or two with all of this additional solar energy that's coming, never mind all the after effects, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. All of those are manifestations of this extra energy that's coming our way, that the poor Earth is just adjusting to her new energy. Every time she takes a electromagnetic jolt, well, she takes it to her core, and that energy's got to go somewhere. So in her new realm, in the next dimension, all of that is left behind. So the Golden Taya are these areas where 20% of the surface area has been designated as areas that are going to be, consider them safe zones for people that vibrate at the right level. And when I read that, it listed out those locations as well and indicated that many people are going to find themselves drawn to these areas for reasons they don't understand. Hawaii's one, Shasta's one, Australia's one, Egypt's one. That's why I'll make sure you get this. It's going to be a lot for you to digest. It is now, but it's meant for us to see this now.
I think what I would like to do is go through the Ascension handbook on my channel, just so we can start to get more awareness around that. And I'd love to read this document, what you're talking about, what you also talk about, all this things we're doing to the earth and the earth releasing when we look at the circling animals phenomenon that we've been seeing lately, where all these different species of animals are circling.
Yeah.
Sherry Band got that they were creating vortexes to
Well,
release the
yeah,
energy.
when they circle like that, but right now they're electromagnetic beings, and animals, their level of intellect is not what we have. However, they're very in tune metaphysically still, so they feel the motions and the vibrations of the earth. That's why now when you see that the magnetic poles are shifting, that's when their navigation's way off. That's why whales are getting beached, and you see that happen to the sea a lot. They think that they're following a magnetic route that they always have. The pole has moved.
Wow. I didn't mean to cut you off about the golden tie.
No, well, that it's a lot of information. I was saying that people were being drawn there for reasons that they didn't understand, and that more will over time. And it's no secret, but it's really curious for me to see some, I get to hear from a lot of people now. And there was one girl in particular, Lisa Woodward, who I want to say that she and her family, her husband is connected and he gets it, and her children are aware. She just had this inkling, I want to say a year and a half ago, to just move to Hawaii. Kauai just came into her head. And so you can only imagine what it would take to move your entire family from Missouri and move it to Kauai. Never mind trying to find a place to live, affordable, whatever it is. But in 9-month period, she did that very thing. Now, since she's been there, she feels this longing and this need to go out, and she understands she's a healer and a light person, to be in the water. I said, well, I had the benefit of reading the Golden Taya allotments already, so I knew why she had been drawn there, and she's just been asked to be in the water to help just let her light continue to radiate through all that. She's one of those people that went there to help prepare the area for those of the rest of us that are going to come. She's helping clear it so that that area will be one of those safe zones when the ascension time comes around.
Oh, sorry. How long has she been there?
I want to say not quite a year yet.
I wonder if she's partly responsible of the the double volcano that's happening on the Big Island now. I know that there's people that are there kind of.
I didn't know until after, because I follow, there's another guy on YouTube. He's called Dutch Sense, and he follows earthquake phenomena. The guy is amazing, and the graphics he can show us are amazing. It wasn't until after we'd heard that Mauna Loa had erupted again, he reported then the next day that there had been an earthquake below the ocean that had gone off before the volcano had erupted. You think that the triggering had something to do with it? I'm convinced it did. And there's a lot more of that going on. When I first decided I wanted to follow earthquakes and see what that phenomenon was, I thought, what can there be? Like maybe 5, 6 a day on the planet? There's like 150 a day on the planet that we are unaware of. So most of them are under the water. The concern only becomes when they're in deep water, they don't seem to be as likely to be problematic. It's when they're more shallow that the opportunity for tsunamis to be created, and we haven't seen the end of that yet.
And do you think that some of these have been manipulated by men? I mean, like, there's a big theory about, them blowing up the dams and all that, and that's causing some of the earthquakes.
Well, we started that process long ago, and that's where it made sense when we were going to get assistance from beyond Earth and beyond humanity. when we dropped the first hydrogen bomb and demonstrated what we could do to the planet and damage it in that way, that's when that whole hands-off idea about letting humanity go, we started to get inside help. And what I mean by that is that the only people that were going to be able to have an effect are those that we are actually incarnated on the planet. So now, when I understand who the Blu-ray children were and when they started, well, right after World War II, and then we dropped one more bomb mushroom head out in Nevada. We showed what we could do. That's when some of us, like I was born in '54, when the Blu-rays started to come back and incarnate here, we were going to be the ones that volunteered to come back here, so that when we awakened, we knew what we were here for, to stop that nonsense and bring a transition to Earth's new spot before it was too late. That's why we're getting actual physical help from higher dimensions. That's why I had the interaction I did that day, and it was physical between me and them. And again, I'm not going to be the only one. There's more assistance coming this way. But it took a long time, Chelsea, for me to go through those things and then put all that together so that it came to me in a way that it made reason. I'm still a Capricorn, and I'm a human being, and damn it, I like my evidence. These things all resonate with me. And when I posted them on the website, it wasn't for others to get. It was, here is how I came to my conclusions. And I believe them with everything now. So when I start to sound a little crazy, first of all, remember, until 5 years ago, I was just like the rest of you, just like the rest of you. And I'm no different than any of you, but my physiology and what's inside of me and the metaphysical stuff that we've been ignoring for so long, that's just looking for nourishment, that has somehow awakened in me sooner than it awakened in the rest of you. So like I said, I'll continue to hold space for the rest of you until you get it, but I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I know what we're going through. And so when you want help with questions you've got about that, you come around and ask. In the meantime, I'm not going to engage people about the extraordinary things that have happened or the gifts that I have now, because they don't get it. And who's got time to argue it anymore?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people do get it, and I think your story has impacted a lot of people and has helped people kind of, facilitate that belief in them, and also help them to understand how some of this could possibly work. And I like that you told your story, right off the bat. It's like, even if you were still learning what it all meant, it's like, I think it's really valuable to go back and watch your story as you told it in the beginning. And then to see how far you've come since then, and your understanding of what's happening and how that affects the whole world too.
Yeah. I was warned that was going to come in September. If you know who Yama was, she's become a friend, and she started to, send me messages through star language that I didn't understand at first, but I fully understand now. And what we've exchanged together is where a lot of the information that we got about the processes that are now going to be provided for us from our assistance that's coming our way, on whatever downloads are going to be coming the way of the people that are just open to it, aware. There'll be activations that are available for everybody. And it's just a matter of getting the news out there. I wasn't interested in being this guy. I didn't want to be a talking head. I didn't. And there's still a degree of me that if I could just, I'm going to gather the tribe I have now, and we'll all get through this together. If those are the ones I only had to worry about, that would just be great. And I'd be fine with me. I'd never talk about this outside of that again. However, that wasn't the deal that I made with my higher self, and that I came back to help the rest of you. That's who I've always been. So I can't not take advantage of the gifts I got to help you all realize the ones you've got, so that when the day comes, they're all going to be put to use. And it's about time that people realize what it is. Maybe when they start to hear it from a regular guy just like them, maybe they'll believe it a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was trying to convey, is kind of like the value that you bring, is because you do seem like a regular guy, like a regular logical guy. So what is your website? And yeah, tell us your website, and then tell us about the Ascension Handbook and how
I
you
will.
do that.
Yeah, I got scolded by my guides because it was too hard to find me, they said. So if you type Lowell Johnson with no spaces .info, you'll get to my website. And that's easier than for me to try and decrypt the name of my URL, which is 40K FTView. It was a clever name. Just use my name .info and you'll get right to my website that way.
Awesome.
Yes. As for the Ascension Handbook, that was a wonderful document. And if you go to my website and there's a drop down from where the home is on my navigation, just beneath that is everything in the Ascension Handbook. It's been sent there and been sitting there for a little over a year, and it's meant for everybody to benefit from. I did some classes for it earlier this year on the New Earth One network platform. I don't know if we'll do those again. I've always kind of just pointed people toward the handbook. Here's where I got my information on what I think is coming with Ascension, and it was a good foundation. Now that we have our hands on what was in the Golden Taya, now I just got the I's dotted and the T's crossed. I understand it more. And although maybe that timeline, which they say in it, can fluctuate, it can be later, but Chelsea, it could be just as easily, it could be sooner. And everything in my being tells me to get ready for it right now, because whatever's vibrating in me says that it could be the next CME that kicks off the sun, that triggers us into the next spot, just as easy as, in 2 years from now.
So do you believe in the theory of the solar flash?
Mm-hmm. I do. It's going to be some phenomenon that we'll recognize like that, but it's not a one and done thing. That's why these zones have been designated as safe areas to go while this process is taking place. Because in the end, this planet and its physical structure is no longer going to support third density vibration. That part of it that isn't protected in those golden area zones are just going to entropy, and they no longer exist in the new dimension. And then it'll be backfilled by, however New Earth fills in its side. I'm getting into areas that even I don't understand, but I comprehend that whatever was third dimensional can't exist in this place anymore because its vibration is too low.
So if it's going to be too late if it starts happening, and then we're going to look up the little locations and, where do we go? Oh, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But within the document, and again, I'm going to send it to you so you can appreciate it too. It says there's a 15-day linear time window in that end spot for even the uninitiated to get it and still make the choice to ascend. You could have lived your whole life like I didn't know what any of this meant, but at the very end, you'll still have your opportunity to take advantage of ascending. Or you want to continue to play out 3D lessons, that's your obligation. You're a sentient being and you have free will. Your little soul can go anywhere you want. It just won't be here because Earth doesn't support that vibration any longer.
So is that where anything that's evil or dark will pretty much fall away?
there won't be any of that anymore, because we all recognize in the next realm, that's just a third dimensional construct that we play out. Duality is that very thing here. Those things don't exist in the next realm, where we all abide by the law of one and we understand we're connected to everybody else. Is it unlimited love and wisdom? And the basis of everything there, the universal law, is love, unity, and compassion. Now, in that realm, tell me where there's space for even the word fight. It doesn't resonate. There's no place for that anymore. They see beyond it. Earth was the experiment to do all those duality lessons. And this experiment lasted way longer than it was ever supposed to, because those dark entities that you referred to, they found a way to subvert our attention and keep us from focusing on the things that we're coming around to understand about ourselves again. They've kept control all this time. And it's not like they're giving up now either. They're not. And they're going to fight to the end to hang on to the things that they've got, because it's all about things. They're playing out a different level. Their service to self beings. And in the balance of what's going on Earth, you have to have service to self people, just like service to others, to understand the concept, the contrast. Now, we don't like it, and we're learning from it, but these are the things that we're going to model out in the next place that we don't have to deal with anymore. We recognize it happens, but collectively, our love pushed us past all that. And we no longer have to live with those conditions anymore.
Awesome. I love that.
Me too.
I love that you brought up The Secret too, because that was kind of, I think, where many people started their journey. I started my journey with that too. And I read the sequel to The Secret, which is called The Power.
Yeah, I read all the books and watched the video 3 times. There's always more to kind of harvest out of that, but that's where my trigger really began. Yes.
And you talk about love, and that's truly what it is, that law of attraction, that power, that force. The sequel to The Secret, called The Power, it essentially explains that power is love. And that is our true power. I think many people would agree, like Jesus said, like, love is the reason that we're here. It's the greatest reason. It's kind of like the whole point to life is love. And I saw something that you recently did, because you have a YouTube channel, right? Starbucks Mystery School podcast.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I'll share that channel to make sure everybody subscribes to that channel. But recently, I was just watching the one that you did just recently, and you said something so profound. You said that the reason that we all have experienced this, what did you call it? An experiment or whatever. We've all experienced all this division and all this dividing and all this polarity and all this good versus evil, is so that we can find unity again, and we can find God in that unity. That
I found in the document I'm going to send your way. It said that in the golden tie, and just reminded me of all that this was intentional in the cosmic plan of things, so that we would find our way back to source. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that really hit me. That really, it put things into perspective. It makes sense. And there's a saying, like, I went to look for God and all I could find was myself. And I went to find myself and all I could find was God. So the idea that, an external savior is going to come save us, I do feel that is part of that manipulated reality. And like, our source, our power, our love, our God is within. So I'm totally with you on all of that.
I'm glad to hear that. It does me a lot of good to hear people discern for themselves and come to their own conclusion. Of course, when they coincide with what I believe, it sounds really great. But, you know, I used to ask myself and others, when this journey started for me, I used to ask people if there were no concerns you had for money, time, anything, what would it be that you love to do and that you would do all the time? And they couldn't get out of their heads like, well, I got to worry about my work. I got to worry about, no. You didn't have to worry about your family and work and money, or you were no longer bound by anything. What would it be that you would love to do? No one really had an immediate answer. Well, that's a little concerning if I was them. If I don't really understand what makes me happy, and that didn't necessarily mean a job, it's always lovely when you can turn a living from something that I endear myself and I love. Very few people find that. And the reason I started to ask that question is as I started to look around at people, and when I tend to look in their eyes, I can see what's in their heart. And when I think of soldiers, especially soldiers, I don't know what it was, maybe policemen, I thought if there was anything on the world that you could do, what would it be? I doubt many of them would choose to be a soldier, or many of them would choose to be a policeman in a world where you didn't need to be such things. Maybe I want to be a fisherman. Maybe I want to be a farmer. I don't know what it is, but I don't think that I'd want to have to learn to point a gun at somebody. I'd like to live in a world where I didn't have to do that. So I always wonder if people's soul had the choice, would they end up in the capacity that they're in? Now, I say that understanding we all have our own journeys and we have all picked our lessons, and what we're doing here, there's a reason for all that. And my job is just to allow that to happen. Because in the end, all of that Akashic wisdom that you're accumulating, good or bad, that you're storing away, eventually assists the whole collective. So the lessons that you learn, thank you for the lousy ones you've learned, and you're welcome for the ones that I had to learn on your behalf. That's exactly what's taking place. Now do you see how everything when it comes together benefits each other? My God, I get chills every time I think of what we could be.
Yeah, absolutely. This is beautiful. I really appreciate all of this. I think this is an awesome conversation, and super exciting stuff that we're talking about.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all I can continue to hammer home is it's coming, gang, and it's coming quicker than we'd expect. And in my defense, a guy like me would not say the things I'm saying if I hadn't done the research and happened to believe what I believe. Now, I'm not asking you to take it at face value. I want you to resonate, but let me hold up a warning sign that all the signals are right for this to be true. Now you decide from there. I've done my job.
Right. And yeah, and we can all continue to do our shadow work and look at our wounds that we have within us, try to heal these wounds, try to overcome our limiting beliefs, and try to let go of the things that aren't serving us. And also in that episode that I saw you recently did, she was talking about yeah, it's important to forgive others, but it's really, really important to forgive yourself. And that's going to create a big ripple effect if we can all just forgive ourselves.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because that was a theme that my guides had told me to remind everybody. Now is the time to tend to your own flame. You have got to worry about your own alignment. And when I say worry, I'll think of a better word for it. Just find alignment with source. Find alignment that you know you're connected to something higher, because I'm pretty sure that your higher being is either tapping on the shoulder. Some of us are fully aware of it and live that life. Awesome. You're right where you need to be, because there's more information that's going to be coming our way, and they just want to make sure that the connection between you and your higher aspects is intact, so that you're available and understand what's coming your way. Then there are those that are kind of on the fringe. Well, those are the ones we're hoping, Chelsea, we're going to trigger by conversations like this, where I've had extraordinary experiences, but who the hell do I talk to about that? We all need touchstones. I still love having them. And really, when I go back and listen to these, it's because there was something in this conversation, this exchange, that Chelsea brought forward for me that I was meant to hear too. It always happens that way. The more tribe that shows up, the more comfortable we are about sharing our experiences with one another. And when our vibration rises like that, then, man, the last couple interviews I did, and clearly some that you had, those were much better than me. And I love to have these exchanges where, we draw out questions and we can have these discussions, and I can talk about reason and how I got to these conclusions I did. But when we get to hear somebody else, now, there wasn't just Lowell that had a crazy, extraordinary experience. Listen to what happened to this person who thought that they were supposed to tamp it down and never talk about it again. Listen to this guy over here who used to speak light language when he was little and no longer did it because everyone looked at him squirrely until he heard it now. Now he realizes, oh, this is a gift that I got. It's supposed to be nurtured. That's what's happening. It's exciting because I'm in a position to see a lot of this happening and witness it kind of as an observer, because I start to hear from people all over the planet now. They are all tribe looking for the rest of us in a place where we can all have these conversations together and lift each other up. We get to share extraordinary stories, knowing that no two are alike. And in that, those are extraordinary sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so easy to be like jaded in this world and to be angry right now at all of these like horrific things that have happened over the last couple years. It seems like trauma is like just at an all-time high, like right now for so many people. It's just really thick for everybody. And I know that a lot of people are getting like really triggered by other people and other people's actions. So I think if we're in that space where we're like, he did this, she did this, we're pointing fingers, then, we're going to have to be able to like do the hard thing and have the awareness that like, what is it, like you were saying, what is it in that person is triggering you, and what is the wound that you need to heal for yourself. So
that's so well put. And, no one wants to see it that way. I know.
I don't either. I want to point the finger and blame sometimes too. I mean, I'm guilty too.
No one wants to see themselves in what we see in others, but that's exactly what it is. I ended up being a lot more kind. It's been in me all along. I can't say that, but I'm much more aware of it now and how I interact with people, because again, that's what I get back and it's what I draw around me. I say this with amazement to this day, that from the time I've had this TIA, I have not had an unpleasant interaction with anybody anywhere at all. Not a line that got long, not anyone that flipped me off in traffic, nothing in 6 years. So I attest that to whatever energy I put out is exactly what I get back. And it just always seems kind of magic all the time. Everyone can do that for themselves. It's a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this super empowering conversation. So if you want to hear more, you can go to lowelljohnson.info and you can access the Ascension handbook that you wrote, right?
I did not write that. No.
No.
And I don't want to characterize it that way. That was a wonderful tool that my guides put in my hands. And it was just my responsibility to make it available for everyone to get their hands on, because that document had been buried since like 2012. It's time. It was time for that to, reemerge again.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to look at that. And then also this other one, the Golden Taya. That sounds
You'll
really
be busy for a while, Chelsea, and we'll have to have another conversation.
that sounds great.
All right.
And also the emerald tablets, we touch base on that a little bit, and that's something that all of us can start listening to, get it on Audible and just start letting it play, because that's going to integrate with us as well.
Yes, it is. That we were meant to know all that right now too.
Awesome. How very exciting. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you, and I hope we can talk again. And thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and we will do this again.
Sounds awesome. All right. Thanks, Lowell. Have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your day. Bye.